Sometimes life just hits hard at unexpected moments. Everything was going so well. I got the YouTube 100,000 subscriber plaque, and both the startups I've involved with were kicking on all cylinders. I've never gotten seriously sick or had any procedures done other than getting my wisdom teeth out. I've always stayed active and have been conscious about my diet. So when things started to escalate the way they did, it was terrifying. Hi everyone, it's KJ here, and if you couldn't already tell, I got pretty sick over this last month. I actually ended up gaining 60 pounds and losing 60 pounds all within a couple month time frame, and that's absolutely ridiculous. In this video, I'm going to share how I was able to stay strong and positive through the entire time, and how I've managed to get back on my feet, help push these two incredible startups forward, and ultimately still make videos to share with all of you. Before I get into actually what happened, the actual diagnosis, and how I recovered from everything, I want to quickly talk about a proud channel sponsor of mine, Skillshare, the sponsor of today's video. Skillshare offers thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people on topics ranging from design and web development to freelancing and entrepreneurship. They make sure to have classes for all experience levels, which I personally really appreciate. Also, most classes are less than an hour total, and they're made up of short lessons that fit into anybody's schedule. I recommend productivity classes in order for you to stay focused, and also any class that gets you acclimated with professional creative tools like Photoshop or Premiere Pro. I personally am really interested in the class DIY Product Photography, Style and Shoot Creative Stills by the photographers at Mango Street Lab, Rachel and Daniel. Everything is tailored for efficient learning, so there's no ads, and new premium classes are launching all the time. This makes it really easy to stay focused and actually work on new skills. And this is all less than $10 a month with an annual subscription, so I cannot genuinely recommend Skillshare enough. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description will get a free trial of premium membership so you can explore your creativity. Okay, I'm gonna circle back to actually what happened. Turns out my kidneys have just not been functioning the way they were supposed to over the last couple of months. In February, I was in Florida celebrating Valentine's Day and Michelle's birthday with her. I was around 20 pounds more than I typically am. But you know, I thought I just wasn't eating properly or exercising enough. I thought nothing of it because I was still able to exercise and I still felt generally okay. Then I went back home as my stuff was moving, and back in LA, I was able to play basketball. I had a good time, and although I was getting tired easily, again, I just attributed it to me being out of shape. I was looking at some of the pictures taken at the pickup session, and I was genuinely sad because I didn't realize how bloated I was looking. Because of this, I started to take my diet even more seriously, and I worked out almost every day, but nothing was changing. At this point, I didn't really have time to dwell because I had to head over to Philly to help Michelle move into her new apartment. Okay, so at this point, I've been in Philly for a couple days, and the first thing that I noticed was pretty concerning was the fact that my Apple Watch band was a notch looser than I had it over the last couple of years. Like, I'm always at the second notch, but then today was at the third. And at the same time, I was looking at the mirror and my midsection was looking very bloated. And at this point, I was already doing a lot better with my diet and exercise. Again, because I have no medical history or anything, I really thought it was just what I was eating. But the next day was when it got really scary. I was just taking a shower and I looked down at my feet and it looked like my foot was broken because of how swollen it was. I felt no pain when I walked, but my foot had just expanded seemingly out of nowhere. At this point, I probably should have gone to the hospital, but it was late, I didn't feel any pain, so I just thought maybe I'll sleep it off and the swelling would be down by the morning, but it was not. And things did not get better in the morning. Michelle and I actually thought that I was just having allergies, so we were actually going to head over to Target before our trip to IKEA just to pick up some allergy meds, and I was just gonna go about my day. I was worried about my state, so in the meantime, I texted Michelle's mom, who's a nurse, a picture of my foot. I had also texted my mom, and on our way to Target, I got calls from Michelle's mom, my mom, and I also called my aunt in the Philippines who's a doctor. It was a unanimous decision that I needed to head over to the hospital right away. So yeah, I'm definitely freaking out at this point. We go to the closest urgent care who looks at me and they say, oh, we don't have the machines to properly evaluate you. And so they transfer me over to another urgent care who does the same thing, and I end up going to UPenn's main hospital and their emergency room. This was all really surreal because I don't get sick. I'm not really put in this situation. And at this point, I was still weirdly optimistic. Michelle and I were just planning dinner, and we thought we were just going to be out in a couple hours. They're going to evaluate me, just give me some prescriptions, but I was definitely wrong. That day, I ended up getting an X-ray, ultrasound, ECG, blood and urine tests. 4 doctors ultimately ended up coming to talk to me, and the worrying thing was that when they were asking me questions like, do you smoke, or do you have any pre-existing conditions or a family history of this, I'm just consistently answering no. well. So no one really knew why any of this was happening. They told me that there was definitely something wrong with my kidney, but that there would have to be a lot more tests over the next couple of days. And that marked the first night that I spent at the hospital. Every morning it was pretty much the same routine. At 5 a.m. they'd wake me up, they'd weigh me, take my vitals, and attempt to draw blood from me. I say attempt because at this point my arms were so swollen that my veins were hidden by layers of fluid. This meant that every time they had to draw blood, they basically had to put the needle in and search for the closest vein because I was so swollen. And that was really painful and definitely the worst part of this whole hospital experience. The solution ended up having to be doctors using an ultrasound to guide the needle to my veins, which again was very painful just because of all the swelling they had to go through. And it's not the most common thing in the world to hear the doctors request nurses to give them bigger needles because the normal size needles wouldn't work on me. An extra bonus with all of this is that I was to be ready for a kidney biopsy at any point, which meant I couldn't eat for 8 hours before the procedure. So every day I had to wait till around 2 to 3 p.m. without eating just to make sure that if I did have the biopsy that day, I was able to have it. For the next few days, I go through this routine and honestly, it was getting to me. 8 different doctors had talked to me at that point. 10 different nurses have tried to get blood from me to no avail. And every single attempt was really painful. There was one session where they tried 17 different times. They tried drawing blood from the back of my hand, between my knuckles, in the inside of my elbows, and even near my armpit. Meanwhile, my mom had flown out immediately after I got admitted into the hospital, and she would be with me during the day, and Michelle would be with me during the afternoons and night. And that's something that I'll be grateful for the rest of my life. The scary thing though was that I was gaining 2 to 3 pounds a day while in the hospital. For reference, I'm around 205 pounds normally, and when I was admitted to the hospital, I was in the 230 to 240 range, and at my peak at the hospital, I got up to 268 pounds. By the 3rd day, the doctors were fairly certain I had this disease called minimal change disease. This is a disease that happens more often in young people, but in essence, it means my kidney is leaking a bunch of this protein. This protein's sole purpose is to keep water within my blood vessels, and because I'm leaking all of it, my blood vessels aren't able to maintain its water as it's circulating around my system. So as my blood's just circulating around my system, the fluid is just leaking out into between my muscles and my skin. This leads to issues like my liver overcompensating with overall protein production, which makes my body have high cholesterol and high blood pressure as well. Every day I looked in the mirror as my body just continued to expand. To be honest, at some points, I didn't know if I was going to ever get better. I just kept gaining weight, and every time they stuck needles into me, it was just very painful, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to continue to handle that pain. But this is where the importance of my support system comes in. I was able to video chat with loved ones consistently, and either my mom or Michelle was by my side for most of the time. So even if my body seemed to be failing me, I had to stay strong as to not worry all of the people that care about me. March 26 marked biopsy day, and at this point, I had my IV in my arm for now 4, 5, 6 days, and my left arm was almost completely immobile. And I'm just walking around the floor trying to get some steps in when someone walks by with a stretcher requesting for me and saying that it's time to get my kidney biopsy. I was scared about getting knocked out for my procedure in the earlier days of the hospital, but at this point, I just wanted it all to stop and knew this was a necessary step to get closer to the end. I was weirdly calm through the whole situation. They wheeled me down to radiology, and the radiologist was asking really scary questions like, did you prepare a will? Would you want us to perform CPR if anything were to go wrong? Or would you want to be hooked up to a breathing machine if you were unable to breathe on your own? Yeah, I just wanted to be over with, so I was weirdly calm, and the IV was already in me, so I knew that they didn't have to stick me anymore. It was all a crazy experience that I'll never forget. As they rolled me into the operation room, they told me that my IV is where they would put the sedative and that I shouldn't feel a thing while the operation happened. The staff was all really nice to me as I've been here for a week at this point, so they were even willing to take pictures of me while I was in the operation room, and they let me take selfie video as well in my own room. After getting me onto the operation table and the CAT scanning machine, I thought the whole thing took 5 minutes, and I thought I was awake the whole time, but they told me that it was a 45-minute procedure and they successfully got 2 samples of my kidney. I had lost my appetite and was asleep most of the rest of the day, but the doctor seemed to have gotten every test they wanted to get out of me at this point. So they were ready for me on March 27th to actually release me. At this point, I had gained just half a pound the day before, down from like the 3 to 5 pounds I was gaining every day. And they had prescribed me my medications, and I was just happy and relieved to finally get out of the hospital. And I thought we were home free. I thought. For the next few days, I ended up gaining 3 to 5 pounds every single day. By the time it got to April, I was at 260 pounds. Meanwhile, I had gotten a blood pressure monitor because they wanted me to monitor my blood pressure every day, and it turns out my blood pressure was near stroke levels. Once my doctor got note of this, I was told to immediately return to the hospital. I was definitely panicking. I had just gotten back from the hospital. I thought they knew what was going on with me, and I thought that my meds would fix that, but obviously it wasn't. So I was starting to lose confidence in the situation. They had to immediately use an ultrasound on me because I was so swollen to get the IV into my arm. They ended up taking around a pint of blood, and I had to get more urine samples. And at this point, my family was panicking, my friends were panicking, and I was panicking. And for the first time, I had to actually tell the nurses to get off of me and let me breathe for a second because I was getting really overwhelmed and I didn't know what was about to happen next. This was my low point, and I truly thought that there was a possibility that I was going to die. Luckily, things started to go smoothly from there on out. They were actually able to use an ultrasound and get a second IV up near my armpit where they were able to continuously draw blood every day. And this allowed them to just draw blood without having to stick me again. And the second IV was where they would input the diuretic to make sure the fluid would continue to get out of me. So it was good that I didn't have to get stuck anymore, but I was still gaining. And within a couple of days, I was now at my peak 268 pounds. From my kidney biopsy, they told me that they discovered a second disease actually. So in addition to my minimal change disease, I also had this thing called IgA nephropathy. And both of them act in tandem and produce the resulting swelling that we saw, which was called nephrotic syndrome. The chances of getting just minimal change are 16 out of 100,000. So I guess I really beat the odds with both. They increased my medications to max dose of everything, where now I was taking 6 times the dosage of diuretics and another 20 milligrams of my prednisone every day. And this actually did the trick. On April 4th, I lost weight for the first time in months. I lost about 1.5 pounds from the day before, and this gave them enough confidence to actually send me home so that I can spend Easter back in my apartment. Since then, it's really been a grind. I've had tons of checkups, 4 different blood draws within the last week and a half or so, but I'm actually doing really well now, and I've lost a ton of the fluid. I've had to pretty much cut salt out completely from my diet, and I've had to more than half my protein intake, which has been tough, but I'm fortunate enough to be in the position to get foods that do fit this diet. Since then, I started to lose 5 to 10 pounds a day with the high dosage. And since I was immunocompromised because of the prednisone that I'm taking, they rushed me to go get COVID vaccines, and by the time you're watching this video, I should have gotten both shots by now. Outside of the various side effects from the medications, the biggest ramifications I've seen have been my stretch marks. My body changed so quickly that my skin wasn't able to adapt in time. So if you have any suggestions on what I can do for these different stretch marks, please leave the suggestions in the comments below. I'll really appreciate the input. Okay, so there's the story. Quite the story, but I'm glad and happy, proud and grateful to say that I'm pretty much back to 100% now. I'm slowly incorporating working out into my routine again as my muscles and bones get their strength back. And hopefully after my second vaccine takes effect, I'll be able to play basketball again. During my recovery, I was also able to still push forward the 2 companies that I'm involved with. And from the beginning of the video, I promised to give you exciting updates on that. So Douce Drone has actually been one of the only companies approved by the FAA to run revenue generating flights. So within the next couple of months, Douce Drone will actually be out flying in Mobile, Alabama, delivering food from Jimmy John's, Panera, and Blaze, just to name a few retailers. Meanwhile, Chipbrain just won first place in a Harvard MBA pitch competition. I was able to pitch with Lisa in front of a panel of people from Harvard Business School, Stanford Graduate School of Business, UPenn Wharton, and we impressed the VCs enough to win that competition. A lot of people have told me that they're surprised at how positive I've been through this whole terrifying experience. And part of me denies that claim because I don't know if I was positive through all of it, but another part of me is just grateful that I didn't have to do it alone. I think that because of my support system, I would never got too down about the situation, and I was able to push further in terms of taking more pain or going through these tasks or following these really strict guidelines in order to get better faster. I had the support system around me, already that allowed me to really focus on nothing other than getting healthy again. Every day I had this influx of people asking how I was doing, making sure that I wasn't overworking myself, and just generally checking up on me. And I'm happy to say that it's not isolated in this situation. Like, these people would check on me even if I wasn't about to die. And in the future, I know that they'll be there for me as well. I didn't have to go through this alone. So now I'm temporarily here in Philly. Deuce Drone is doing some great things. ChipBrain is the skyrocket of a company that we all thought it would be in the first place. But this channel is also very important to me because I feel as if me telling my story has the ability to have a positive impact on the people watching. As a result, I've brought on a team of fabulous editors, a graphic designer, and I'm thrilled to say that I can now feasibly upload weekly again, as I've always strived to do. Right now, I'm genuinely excited to see where life is going to take me. There was a big speed bump in my life at a relatively young age, but the future looks really, really bright. I'm going to continue to push myself to be the best version of myself that I can be, and hopefully along the process I can inspire a lot of you guys to go reach for your lofty goals. But that's all I'm going to talk about for this video. As always, make sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter to stay up to date with what I'm doing. Subscribe to this channel if you want to see more videos like this one. Let me know down in the comment section what types of videos you want to see in the future, as I'm going to be making a lot more videos. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.